Howdy y'all, Wyrm here. So when it comes to most MMORPGs, we have a defining feature where there's a number of races that are able to be playable. In most cases it's usually both genders. In FF14 it's absolutely no different. We have two separate clans for each race, giving us even more variety in the genders and the races we choose. However, per the title of this video, I want to discuss two topic points with you. Why I personally think it's extremely unlikely we'll ever get a new race, and why I think we'll get completed genders for the two new races that we did get in Shadowbringers. However, to discuss this topic we need to do a bit of context, so let's just go through the history of the races in FF14 and then we can go from there. So let's go back to 1.0. When the game first released we had 5 races to choose from. We had the Lalafels, we had the Viera, the Elizin, the Rogadin and the Miqo'te. However, when the game released, 2 of these races only had one gender to choose from. Rogadin only had males, and Miqo'te only had females. Now, when the game first came out, we got a lot of lore explanation as to why this was. If I recall back to them reasoning for the no male Miqo'te, it was that the males actually lived in the clan villages, while the females actually ventured out into the world, which is why we only mainly saw the females. But I think it's more likely, given the fact that the game had such a myriad of development issues before and during 1.0's release. I think it's just likely they ran out of time and they weren't able to add those genders in for those races, so they just left it as it was and gave us a lore explanation. But that's just my theory. There was no official explanation for that, as far as I'm aware. So this issue was resolved in 2.0 when A Realm Reborn relaunched, so we got male Miqo'te and then we got female Rogadin added to the game. So all the races that we had completed genders at that point. By the time of the Heavensward expansion release in 2015, the Aura were the race added to the game. Although their species itself wouldn't really turn up in NPC form until the next expansion of Stormblood. However, the race was completed with 2 separate clans and had both genders. Now, it wasn't until Shadowbringers in 2019 that not 1 but 2 races would be added to the game. The Viera, a very popular race from the Final Fantasy series, and the Hrothgar, a brand new race specifically created for FF14. Let's dive into the subject at hand. Why I think we won't see another race, and why I think we will see completed genders for both the Viera and the Hrothgar. So let's start off with both of these 2 new races. Now, it was something as a surprise to everybody when we found out we were getting 2 new races. But the surprise calmed down once we realised we were actually going to get 1 gender per race, so female Viera, male Hrothgar. Now, most understood why Viera was only in female form, as we've never seen a male Viera in the Final Fantasy series. But even in the Hrothgar, this brand new race created specifically for FF14, we only got a male variant and not a female. The community was frankly in a bit of a fuss about this, and by many rights they actually still are, which is why I'm doing this video. Now, when it comes down to it, gender locks are not something MMORPG players enjoy. Myself included, I really dislike gender locks, because I like to be able to play the gender and the race and the job that I want to. And to be honest, history has already taught us the player reactions to this, because I remember as soon as we found out there was only going to be female Miqo'te and male Rogadin, people were like, wait, why are we only getting gender locks? I don't get it. But let's discuss this topic because it's really important. Here's how I see it. Races are one of the hardest things to add into a game as complex as FF14. Not only do you have to design and implement the race into every class and job that exists, but you have to ensure that all the existing gear in the game can be wearable by those races. So, in essence, the devs had to go back and change every piece of gear in the game so that the Viera and the Hrothgar could wield and wear them properly. Now, having 2 new races also adds to the development time, as any new gear that needs to be added has to be changed to suit every race in the game, including the 2 new ones. Then we get the issues for example, that affect the Viera currently in game. Now, if you look at Viera, their defining feature is their big long ears, which makes wearing many hats and helmets not possible in the game. To this day, there are a lot of helmets and a lot of hats that Viera just can't wear. So whenever they have the hat on, the hat always shows as invisible because clipping and other issues actually occur, mainly due to how the ears work. But then you have the added issue that any and all new headgear that they actually add to the game needs to be suitable to be worn by Viera. So this limits the developers in a sense that any new hats that they bring into the game has to be compatible with the Viera. So that changes the entire landscape of how helmets can be designed going forward. And then it just runs into a bunch of issues in terms of how this race actually works. Otherwise, they just have to keep the helmet hidden at all times because, frankly, the headpiece is just too weird. It just doesn't work properly. Now, people have been saying this for years, myself included. Why wouldn't we get a Viera long before we actually got the announcement of one? Because people knew right away the headpiece wouldn't work, and Square Enix hasn't been able to fix this yet. The dev team have been trying their best, but they just can't seem to solve this issue. Most headpieces in the game right now are just incompatible with these ears. Like, look for example at my helmet, like and subscribe by the way. So my helmet is the onion helmet, so this wouldn't work for a Viera because it completely encompasses the head and there's nowhere for the ears to go. I mean, look, my ears are in these metal flaps at the side here. But for a Viera, there's nowhere for the ears to go. There's big plumage at the top. So what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. Now, hopefully you see where I'm going at this stage. Adding a new race adds a whole lot of development tasks onto teams behind FF14. And it's why I personally think we'll never see a new race. Or at the very least for a very long time. Maybe far in the future we'll get another race. Now, what I do see happening is this. I see SE adding a male Viera and a female Hrothgar. Now, I know you might be thinking right away, we've never seen a male Viera before. And to be honest, you're right, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. Viera is a two-gender race in the series itself. Male Viera do exist. So the FF14 lore states that all the Viera, about 80% or so are born female and 20% are male. As such, they're a matriarch society. Now, the males live in a separate village, but they still maintain contact with the female village and return to it every 3 to 5 years or so in order to mate and also to claim any males that have reached adulthood. Now, the males themselves are wood warders. They serve as kind of protectors of the forest that the Viera inhabit. Now, we actually do get some dialogue about this relationship in game when a Viera is asked a very simple question. So when a Viera was asked, was it not within the natural order for males and females of a species to coexist? The female Viera answered, "The value of coexistence will not be found neath a loincloth. Long has our kind endured understanding that the distance twixt two bodies does not dictate the distance twixt two souls." Now, that's a rather beautiful way of looking at it. But it's also likely the important reason that the Viera's numbers don't actually outstrip the forest that they actually dwell in. Their numbers are kept under control and that they don't overwhelm whatever region they actually live in. Now, my point is this. Male Vieras do exist. Well, naturally, there needs to be a male. But it just means that there's an avenue for a male Viera to enter the game as a playable race, next to the female Viera. We already have an established lore. We just need development to complete and then we'll have the male Viera. But to be honest, right now I think SE is more focused on resolving the issues with the female Viera currently in game. Now then, onto the Hrothgar. Now, like the Viera, they only have one gender in game, that gender being male. However, game lore has established that they do exist, but like the Viera, the ratio of male to female for the Hrothgar is very high on the male side and very low on the female side. Thus, we've not seen a single female Hrothgar yet. But let's be honest here, we never really got a reason as to why we got gender locked races, but I think it's just clear that it was mainly for development schedule issues. Likely they ran into a lot of issues getting these two races into the game, and with the issues that the two races actually still have towards the end of this expansion, I think the act of adding the other genders into the game would have just caused a mix of stress and issues that they're already trying to deal with and actually can't really resolve at this point. The fact that they're still today trying to fix these issues with the female Viera and the male Hrothgar only enforces this theory. And honestly, I completely understand this. Adding two new races adds a whole slew of development tasks and development issues, which I've just gone into like 10 different times as to why adding new races is actually such a difficult task and such a time-intensive task. So, my conclusion, what do I see happening regarding the current and future races? I see the dev team behind FF14 focusing on a fully integrating the Hrothgar and the Viera into the game. That includes their other genders. This is a mammoth task in and of itself, and I do not envy them their task. I see them stopping integration of any new races after this though. I honestly don't think we'll see another, nor do I think we actually need another. We have a wide selection of races already, and sticking with these races allows the dev teams to focus on other aspects of the game, as well as all the work that goes into the development of gear for the ones that we already have. But what's your opinion on this subject? Get involved in the comments and let me know yours. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and please feel free to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Thanks all, and as usual, have a good one.